Alright, in this lesson I'll introduce second arguments that we can pass to the loc, iloc, and ix methods. Let's begin by re-executing our code to import our James Bond data frame. And we'll have that sorted index of film names on the left. So far we've been doing simple extractions. For example, with loc we've been saying, for example, let's pull the film Moonraker. And by default it's going to extract all of the values for that row. The index labels of our new series are going to be the column names from our original data frame, and the values in our series are going to be the row values for those columns. Now, the loc method actually takes a second optional argument, and that represents the column name that we want to extract. So for example, if we don't want to return everything here, if we only wanted to pull the actor column, what it's going to do is find the row with Moonraker, and then find the column with actor, and it's going to find the value at that position, which is Roger Moore, and it's just going to give us that cell value. Similarly, if I wanted to pull director, I can just put director, which is one of my column options, as my second argument. And similarly, if I wanted to pull more than one column, I could do something like sequentially by doing director through, let's say, budget. And that's going to allow me to pull those three columns. Again, whenever we're using strings, the end result is inclusive, so budget will be included. And if I want the columns non-sequentially, I can just pass in a list. For example, I can do actor, budget, year in that order. And the loc method is going to extract just those column values for the film Moonraker, which represents our index label. And the same process applies with the iloc method. Now this is a little bit more tricky because whenever we're working with iloc, we always have to use integers. And when it comes to columns, we have to start thinking of columns as their own numeric positions on their own separate index axis. So what I mean by that, this is something that we briefly discussed when we were going over the insert method, is that the columns actually belong on their own separate index, where year, which is our first column, is considered the item with an index position of 0 among our columns. And similarly, the actor column is index position 1 among our columns. The director column is index position 2 among our columns, and so on. So if we wanted to pull, let's say, the film with an index position of 14, if we just leave that first argument, it's going to give us all of the columns. However, if I only wanted to pull the director has an index position of 2. It is the third column. So I could write in 2 here, and it's going to extract that value, which is going to be John Glenn. Again, it's finding the row 14, and then the column at an index position of 2, and finding the cell that's at that intersection and giving me the values. And again, I can do things like sequential values, so I can do columns 2 through 5, and this time the column with an index position of 5 will not be included. So this is going to be 2, 3, 4, which represents director, box office, and budget. We can do things like non-sequential columns by passing a list. Let's say I want 5, 3, 2. That's going to represent the Bond actor salary column, the box office column, and then the director column. And all of the regular operations apply. So whenever we do loc and we pass it a second argument, it has to be an index label. But for the columns, whenever we do the iloc method, it has to be a column index position, so the numeric value of its order among that sequence. What's great about the ix method, which is my personal favorite, is that it allows you to mix and match. So for example, if I know that I want to pull the film at an index position of 20, I can do that, and that'll work. But if I want to provide a column for my second argument, I can also do that. So if I want to do the budget of the film at an index position of 20, I can mix the numbers and the actual column names here and do the opposite as well. So for example, there's my budget value for the film at an index position of 20, and I could also do it in reverse. For example, I could say I want to pull the value of the man with the golden gun. That's going to be my row label. But I want to pull the column at an index position of 2, which represents my director. So the director of the man with the golden gun is going to be Guy Hamilton. And the great thing about ix is that all of the functionalities that are available in loc and iloc are totally possible with IX. You can do them both as index labels. You can do them both as index positions. But you can also mix and match. So you can do things like this. You can do things like the column name itself. You can do things like a list of columns, actor, and budget. You can do things like mix the film name with, let's say, columns 0 through 4, and that's going to pull just those 4 columns. And IX also works like the iloc method, where we can pull the film with an index position of 5 and only pull column 3, which is box office, and pull the value for that. So what's really great about IX is that it kind of has this catch-all mentality where it's really flexible and allows you to input any kind of option. You can do either index labels or index positions. And now we're looking at it from a 2-axis perspective. In the last couple lessons, we were only looking at it from the rows perspective. But now with that second argument, we can specify what column or columns we can extract or we want to extract. And we can make those columns sequential. We can make them separate by using a list. And with IX, we can use any option that we want to extract. So again, that's one of the big reasons why IX remains my favorite operation to extract specific values from a data frame. And in the next lesson, we'll start diving into how to set values in our data frame.